Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and welcome to the free GenAI Bootcamp. This is a very special recording or session because we are going to be learning the basics, or basically getting a primer in the Japanese language, since that is the target language that I've chosen for this bootcamp. And I have two people to really help me out here. And so I want to bring them to stage. So we have Ri Sensei. This is my Japanese language teacher, and also Tim, who is a guest instructor in the bootcamp, also studying Japanese, and I think also your Japanese teacher.
So this, yeah,
Mhm,
this is
mhm,
also my Japanese teacher. Yes.
mhm. And as you
Right.
can, as you can see, Tim is trying to work his words into Japanese. I can barely work my words into English right now, but uh, but we'll work through this here. But anyway, I figure what we could do is we could introduce Ri Sensei, because for those that are reading the materials for the bootcamp, you probably know at this point that the use case for a bootcamp is for a Japanese language learning school. And Ri Sensei has been operating a Japanese language learning school, or English language learning school, and also Japanese for a good amount of time. And so it'd be great to talk to her a bit about that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen. And first, maybe we have some questions for Ri Sensei. Ri Sensei,
はい。
hi. Or
はい。
hi, hi. And so,
Mm, mm.
just asking a little bit about your background. How long have you been a language teacher for?
30年以上です。
Mm,
30年。30年。わかりま
30,
すか？
30 years.
Yes!
30
そうで
years.
す。Perfect.
Mhm,
はい。
mhm, mhm. And what made you want to become a language teacher?
はい。いい質問ですね。あのね、英語がとっても好きなんです。英
Mm.
語がとても好きです。I really love English.
Oh, well, that's
Just like
good.
you guys.
Yes.
はい。
Mm-mm-mm-mm. And in your time as a language teacher, how many students have you taught?
I cannot count, but I would say more than 1,000. 1000人
Mm,
よ、今まで。
Whoa.
wow.
I mean,
高いですね。
in person, right?
うんうんうんうん。
はい。
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
高いですね。
たくさん、たくさんです。たくさん。
Yep.
はい。
So I know that you have an in-person language school in Japan.
Mhm.
But I think something that's also really interesting is that you also have a cafe. Um, I understand the language school, but what made you also want to open a cafe?
ああ、やっぱり、集まる場所が欲しかったんですね。アンドリュー、わかった？
Wakarimasen,
あ、
wakarimasen.
ティム
Moishido.
さんティムさんわかってます。うんうんうん
Oh yeah.
うん。
I
Mhm,
did.
mhm.
What
So
did I say?
she wanted a place for people to gather.
Yeah, that's
Mm,
good.
mm, mm, mm,
Perfect. Yeah,
okay.
to Japanese, ティムさん。
Mm, 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 mm.
Yes. So I really wanted to have one place people can get together and then have fun.
Mm.
That's why.
So so yeah, I could see how having a cafe with a language school, or very close to it, would probably make for very good learning immersion, because
Hmm.
then now you have this scenario to which people can work. And also, it looks like there's also really good food. And so I would imagine that students that are well fed, or anyone that's well fed, probably learn language a lot faster.
Maybe learning language, English, have to have lots of energy. So you have to eat a lot.
Mm, 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 mm. Well, I appreciate for your introduction there. I want to bring up our slides. So I've prepared quite a few slides here. And whoops, one of my other screens is showing the wrong screen here. Just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, and it is showing backwards here, but just give me one moment to fix this. And we will. There we
Yep.
go. We have it now on the correct screen.
Hmm.
So, the goal of this video is that I want to provide a quick primer on the different features of the Japanese language. And I think that Japanese, the specific language, makes for a
Hmm.
very good use case for language learning. There's a few reasons why. Japanese is a high context language, and my click has stopped working, but just a moment here. Oh, and now PowerPoint has closed. That's okay. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Yep, just a few technical issues there, but luckily not as bad as the technical issue we had last week. For those who don't know, this is kind of behind the scenes things, but we actually had recorded this prior, and it was like I would say lightning in a bottle was like the perfect video. And then I found at the end of the video I had not pressed the record button, but
Hmm.
this time I am paying more close attention. But anyway, as I was saying, I think Japanese makes for a very good use case for learning LLMs and GenAI workloads because Japanese is a high context language. It has multiple writing systems, which we will look at here in just a moment. And I think that there is work that has to be done to get good output or performance when you want Japanese as output because of all the features of the language. If anyone has ever used something like Google Translate to ask it to translate into Japanese to English or vice versa, you would find that the results can be very far off, and there's good reasons for that, which we'll talk about in this section here. But let's jump into the different types of Japanese writing systems. And so the first we have is hiragana, and this represents, I believe, native words in Japan or Japanese. Sorry. We have katakana, which I think represents foreign loan words or technical terms, or onomatopoeia. I don't know what an onomatopoeia is. I cannot remember. What is an onomatopoeia?
オノマトピアは、okay, your onomatopoeia, okay, you have the same thing, onomatopoeia.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Is that
is that right?
is that a
Yeah.
word? Is that a word
Onomatopoeia.
that? But is that a word that is? It sounds like it is.
It's a yes, that's right. That's right. Like ping pong or
Okay.
smack or crack or like the
Okay.
comic book thing. They would have
Mhm.
the
But I think something that was really interesting was that it seemed like there was more onomatopoeias in Japanese. I'm not sure if that is true, but I did notice there was quite a few more. Are they used in common speech often? Onomatopoeias?
はい、とっても使います。We use onomatopoeia so often. I've heard Japan has the second country where has onomatopoeia.
Oh,
The
really?
first country is Korea,
Oh,
and
okay.
Japan is the second in the
Hmm,
world. はい、
interesting.
はい、はい。
The third writing system here is kanji, and so I think that these are characters that are borrowed from the original Chinese writing system. Maybe through the history of Japan, I think that they had adopted the Chinese characters for whatever reason. And I think in my research, there is about 3,000 kanji that are used in common conversation, but there's definitely more kanji. I don't know if it's like 20,000, 30,000. So maybe around that number. I'm not sure.
it's
Um,
a lot.
is that what is that what you?
Yeah, I think so. And I
Okay.
think Joyo kanji, I think 3,000 is about what everybody's expected to be able to read.
And Joyo kanji is basically the standardization of these are the ones that we expect everybody to generally know.
Yes, true.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
In elementary school days,
Mhm.
elementary students have to learn 5,000
Wow. Elementary.
elementary
Okay.
for 6 years.
Well, I think if I had to be able to to write them, my mine's probably like Nissan kanji. Tim, how many kanji do you know?
Man, I don't know. I have to go look. It's a few hundred.
Okay.
But yeah, I think maybe in 6 years. I don't even think in 6 years I'll make it to 5,000. So the elementary school kids got me beat.
Yeah, I would say Kim-san has already known more than 1,000.
I don't know about that. Well, maybe
It's
seeing them.
different. You can read, but
Mm.
you can write, right?
Oh yeah,
So
I
you
can't write them at all. Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
you can read.
So yeah, I think as you learn, you find out it's really interesting that you can recognize them, but not necessarily write them. I always find that very unusual that I can recognize more than I can write, but obviously those are just
Mm.
different disciplines. Um, Another writing system is Romaji. This is the representation of Japanese sounds using the Latin alphabet. So it would be literally if somebody in English would try to spell out how it sounds, which
That's
is
right.
really interesting. The next one here is a bit tongue in cheek, and I actually did not fix it, but it's emoji. So there, it should be showing the Japanese flag, but emoji is the representation of. Oh, it says. Oh, you know what? I just noticed that's a mistake, but we'll just pretend that it doesn't exist there by crossing it out. That's how we fix things on the fly here. But what it should say is that emojis are graphical representations of expressions or something you want to
Emotions or
express.
something
Emotions.
like that, or
Hmm.
yeah,
So
emoji.
so what I
Emoji.
found really interesting in that research is that I did not know, but emoji is actually a Japanese word. If you notice, there is a bit of a trend. We see G, G, and G. I don't know what the G means in that context of those things, but I do recognize that pattern. And it's really interesting to see that it was of Japanese origin. I'm not sure if in the Japanese language or in daily if it's used heavily in daily use. Would you say, Risan or
Hi.
Risensei, that it's emojis are used quite often, or probably the same
E-
as we do? Or
Okay, emoji is mostly for among youngsters.
Mhm.
Of course, if you are in a business scene, you cannot use it
Mm, 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 mm.
in the formal document.
Mhm, mm.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Hmm. I always wonder if there might be a greater adoption because kanji are I'm not sure if it's called pictographs, but the idea is that they are single character representations, and it seems like emoji would fit very well into these other writing systems. But the only time I see them often used is when I'm watching if I'm on YouTube and there's a Japanese video. They like to use them as separators very often, which I think is kind of interesting. But here we have the 5 writing systems. Um, and I'm actually kind of interested about Romaji because that's clearly an English spelling. And I would imagine that when you are using a keyboard, this is what I learned, is that when you're using a keyboard, you will type it in Romaji and then it will write the characters. Is that the same for people in Japan, or do they literally have a keyboard with all the kanji on them? Like, how would it all fit on their keyboard?
We have this exactly same as your keyboard, so that's
Hmm.
why we need to know how to type in Romaji. That's why Romaji is taught when elementary students turn to the fifth grade or
Mm-hmm.
fourth or fifth.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know. They have to learn how to read Romaji.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
So it seems like they're already getting exposed at least to the I guess like to the English alphabet. I guess it's an alphabet used by many countries, but
Mm.
it's really interesting to hear that they actually learn that. And but would you say that most people that are growing up now can also write very proficiently in kanji, or are people being more reliant on keyboards to write kanji?
Well, actually, recently, kanji is very difficult for youngsters,
Hmm.
children to to read and to write because they have got used to, lots of typing stuff, and then
Hmm.
you can just
Mm.
press the Google, you can
Hmm.
see
Yeah.
many things. So it's kind of difficult. It's kind of
Or,
one of the social problems among
like
Hmm.
education, Japanese education. Yeah.
or like predictive text, right? Like when I use my phone to text in Japanese, like the kanji
Uh-huh.
will pop up. Kanji pop up suggestion, so I don't have to even finish writing
Yes.
before I have the
Yes.
kanji show up. Yeah.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
let's take a closer look at some of these writing systems. So, and before we move on there, yeah. So, yeah, we are representing the same. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention this. For those that are looking at the screen, what I tried to do is I tried to take the same word and represent it in all the 5 writing systems. And if you probably can tell what the word is here, Nihon. But this word, I believe, means Japan, like the country of Japan. And so this would be the hiragana representation, the katakana representation, the kanji representation in the Romaji. And I would think that that the kanji form is what's commonly used. So, and I think that some words can be represented in kanji, but sometimes they also can be represented in hiragana. So you just learn that as you go. But let's take a look at hiragana. So this is the hiragana, could we say alphabet? And what you'll see here on the right hand side is the vowels, and they're the same as English, A, I, U, E, O, but probably pronounced a bit differently. And then across we have these letters here. And the way it works is that if you want to make a certain sound, and let's say we want to make this sound here, which is T and A, which would make ta, then this would be the character that we would utilize. There are a few exceptions, and that's why I have some things highlighted a bit differently. So see where we have H and A, you would expect this to make the sound ha. But there are cases where this will actually be wa, or over here we have wo, W and O. And there's some cases where this will actually be pronounced O. So there are exceptions. And then there are some characters that are just a little bit different. So like here we have T and I. You might think this is T, but this actually is chi. And so, just like with every language, there are some variants with these things. There are also more sounds if you add these markers. And so down below here, we can see there are two little ticks that would transform the sound. So if we had here ho, down below here we have ho, which is here, it would actually now turn into bo. Okay, so that increases the amount of sounds that we have. There's also these things called diagraphs, which I believe the idea here is it's taking two kanji and they are making a new kind of blended sound. And so this would be ki and this would be yo, but together it would make kyo.
Yep. That's
Kyo?
right.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't have it represented here, but sometimes there are little hiragana characters that represent breaks in sound. And I can't remember which one it is. Maybe it's the su. Is it su that if it's written really small that it would represent, like
the
if we had
pause. Yeah.
the pause. Is it a little one, a little su?
It is.
Okay. So that's kind of an interesting feature there. Then we have katakana. You'll notice that it has the same letters across the top and the same vowels down below. So if we wanted to do ha, this is what it would look like. If we wanted to do ta, this is what it would look like. And then ho is down here. So you can see that there. I think there's some katakana characters that are rarely ever spoken. I can't remember which ones. Maybe it's ro. I don't see ro very often. Do either of you, can you either think of any specific katakana characters that don't appear often?
I
Or
think wo.
Yeah,
Wo.
wo, I think is
Yeah.
the one you almost never see in
Yeah.
katakana.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just remember from my learning that there was, maybe I was thinking ro, but maybe it was wo, but I remember learning some of these and never seeing them, and then I started forgetting them, going, oh, what is it?
Same.
And then I realized they rarely appeared. I'm sure there's some cases where they appear it. So we talked about kanji a bit earlier, but let's talk about how would you be able to read them. So if you have a word like this and you don't know how to read it, there is a helpful thing in the Japanese language system that they can add called furigana, and this is when they provide you the hiragana above or to the side of the kanji character so that you are able to read it. And so here we have yu bin q. I think it's yu bin q. But
yeah.
oh, so is it? Oh, yo bin q. What did I say? Yu bin q.
Yubin kyoku.
Oh,
The last
you
part.
being
You were close.
Kyoku. Yeah, sorry. I think I might have been
Yes.
thinking about hospital. I can't remember how to say hospital.
Oh,
It's a really hard one.
Byoin, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but so I know this is post office. This one I've practiced quite a bit. But if you didn't know the character, sometimes that is used as a helpful way of reading it. I also learned that folks that like manga, these are those basically comic books in Japan, that they'll often put the furigana in there. I don't think for all manga books. Is that the case? Is it used everywhere, or is it just certain types of books for like depending on the target that they're trying to reach?
I think every kanji has furigana because manga is very popular,
Mm-hmm.
even for youngster like 4 years old or 5 years old.
Mm.
Before elementary school kids, they are like primary school,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't know how to read kanji, and then they know furigana. That's why every kanji has its furigana everywhere.
Yeah.
Manga.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could imagine this becomes very useful. I'm not sure if this also extends to like general advertisements for stores or things like that, but I could see in manga that kind of makes sense there. But let's talk a little bit more about kanji. So kanji can have multiple types of readings, and this I think is one of the largest challenges with kanji. So you cannot expect the same kanji to always make the same sound, and you simply need to remember its multiple readings. So there's a website called Jisho, which I believe means dictionary,
Mhm.
and here we have a kanji, and if you think really hard, that kanji looks like a person. Okay,
Mhm.
except
Yes.
maybe they have their arms in their pockets, and they're very they're obviously a very thin person, but um, that looks like a person, and so that's the kanji that represents person. But if you look to the right of it, it shows that there are 5 different ways to pronounce that kanji based on the context that it's being utilized in. And so I have a few examples of where the context or the word changes in its use case. So I'm just going to show all 3. So we have anohito, nihonjin, and sannin. Okay. And so the first one, anohito, I think that means that person over there. Uh, yeah. Okay. Good. And then we have nihonjin, which means a Japanese person, and sannin, which are 3 people. But it's really interesting that there is some variation there. Kanji is grouped into 2 types of readings. We have the onyomi reading and the kunyomi reading. Now, the way I originally understood this is that one said it was the Chinese way of pronouncing it and the Japanese way of pronouncing it. But then when I learned the word, this specific character, I learned that
Mhm.
means sound, and so that makes
Mhm.
more sense that it means sound reading. So since these characters come originally from Chinese characters text, what came over with them, I believe, is their Chinese pronunciation. And so I guess through intermingling with the languages, there are cases where you're using the Chinese sound, or then you're using the native Japanese sound for it. And so they call them on and kun. And so on is, I guess, would be the Chinese original one here, um, and then kun would be here. So is there any kind of strategy to know, like, like if you saw this kanji and you had to guess what the reading was, is there any kind of strategy to figure it out, or you really do have to just memorize all the cases because there's too many variants?
For using onyomi,
Mm-hmm.
you need to place another kanji before or behind that kanji or after that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of combined word like Nihonjin. You see there are Nihon, add other 2 kanjis in front of Jin, Hito. But look at that, the first one is Hito. The kanji is only individual, and the word hiragana, not different kanjis combined together.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Mm,
see. So because here we have hiragana and then a single kanji, then it's going to be the kun reading, and then here we
yes.
see kanji and then kanji and kanji and kanji that its own, and then it's
Mm,
between the 2. I guess it helps if there's only one. Then you're it's going to be a lot easier. And that is it. That is a consistent rule that for the most part that 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 you'll be probably right, or there's
For
exceptions. There's
for the
always
most
exceptions.
part, but there's always exceptions,
Fair
like
enough.
hitozato, and like there's even kanji next to kanji, and
uh,
both have kunyo and mi reading. But Rei Sensei is absolutely right. I think
Mhm,
for the most part, you can assume the
part.
onyo mi reading
mhm.
with kanji and kanji. Interestingly, a kanji by itself with nothing is usually the kunyo mi reading.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Usually, of course.
Sometimes. Okay.
Mm.
And so I think I didn't choose a good example because I mistaked it here. But sometimes the words might also sound different due to devoicing. So there are words in Japanese where maybe because they're said so often, it's just more efficient to drop certain sounds, or there's another reason. But it's not this one. I don't know why I thought it was this one, but we'll just go ahead and cross it out. But a very simple example might be to like, right? So to like is if we were to spell it out in Romaji, would be Suki. But we dropped was it the U?
The ooh.
The U, right? And then becomes ski. So this is really interesting that as you're learning the language, you'll learn that certain things are dropped, but they're not always dropped. Like I noticed that if the speaker is speaking slowly, sometimes they're pronounced. I'm not sure in the case of this word. But again, I imagine it must just be for keeping the flow of the language for these specific things.
And in music, they'll do it sometimes too, like to keep the beat, keep the mora of the music, or to rhyme with something. They'll do it there too, just like we do with English, right?
So let's talk. You said mora, which is great because this leads into what is a kana. So a kana character represents a specific syllable, or mora, a unit of sound. And hiragana or katakana characters, probably should have an S on this, can represent, try to write that there, can represent a kana, but a kanji cannot. And so let's take a look at the Japanese words hajimete, which means for the first time. Let's hope that it means that. As no one's proofed my stuff here, so we're just going to hope that I've gotten these things right. And so here we have it as how you would expect to see it, where we have a kanji and then we have it followed up with two hiragana characters. And so if you were to make the sound for this kanji, this would be haji in this case. And so when looking at this way, we wouldn't count this as a kana, but we'd count this as one kana, two kana, and this would have two moras, but it wouldn't be considered a kana. Okay, at least that's how I understand it. But if we were to write this out in completely in hiragana, then it would have four kanas, and that would have exactly one mora per sound. So one thing I'm kind of wondering is that is there how often when we're looking at kanji will it make like a single sound or two sounds? And like, what's the maximum of sounds could you expect a kanji to make?
So you mean one kanji? Okay, how many sound? I mean, hiragana for one kanji?
Yes.
Let's see.
I mean, yeah.
That's a very difficult question.
Like
Never thought. Okay, let's see.
Like juken exam. That's just one. That's two kanji, right? Two kanji, but one, but it would, yeah. So ju
means four hiraganas.
Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
Right? Let's see.
I think that's right. Yeah, maybe.
So you know, what I've noticed is that it seems like it's one or two, and I've never seen three or anything beyond that.
No, I've never seen. I can't think of three either.
But this is me asking like a question just because I don't know, and I just kind of wondered like if there are more. But that's really interesting because sorry.
I would say for Joyo kanji, like basic kanji, mostly as Andrew-san said, like one or two hiraganas for kanji. But you know, you said there are so many kanjis, right? Even for me, can't read. So that kind of kanji has, I would say, more than 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So very advanced.
Maybe, yeah. So,
but in our daily lives, we never use it.
Okay. So that's good to know that it's either one or two in the most common kanji that are utilized. But yeah, maybe there are some exceptions. I know there's I'm not sure if either of you seen it, but there's like a video floating around about like the most difficult kanji to write, and it's really complicated. Tim,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm talking about? But I can't imagine that happens very often. So
That looks like a picture, right?
yeah,
Not
yeah.
kanji anymore. Picture.
200 strokes.
Art. Yeah,
200
it's
strokes.
art.
But,
Art, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, in summary here, both would have 4 moras, but 4 units of sound, like haji mete.
Mhm.
Another really interesting feature of Japanese, this is really interesting to me, is that the Japanese language does not use spaces to separate words. Not really unusual if you study the history of European languages, because they also did not use
Mhm.
spaces. Like I was watching a video the other day about Latin, and they didn't use spaces, but Japanese does not use spaces. But surprisingly, without spaces, you can get by pretty easily because of the writing systems. So here we
Yeah.
have an example of something here. So we have watashi wa kyo, right? Kyo. Watashi wa kyo Tokyo. Tokyo. I know that's train station, but I never remember how to say train station.
Tokyo Eki.
Eki de densha ni norimasu. So today I go to the Tokyo train station. I guess I'm riding the train. Yeah, norimasu is to
Yeah.
ride. So,
Mhm.
That's
um,
future tense, right?
Yeah, I will
So
ride, yeah.
I will ride a train at Tokyo Station today. So
Mm.
Japanese readers do not need spaces because they can tell where new words start because the use of the mixed writing system. So here I've highlighted it, and you can see that there are particles, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. But also, when you start to learn that, the words are either made up of multiple kanjis, or it's like a kanji followed by hiragana, or it's just
Mhm.
hiragana, you start to see where those natural break-in words occur. So surprisingly,
Right.
that works really, really well.
Mm.
Yeah, I also appreciate how with the particles you can rearrange most of the sentence without changing its meaning.
Yeah.
As long as the particles still stick to the same words, you can rearrange it.
But Re-sensei, is there any case like this always works pretty well? Like there's never been a case where it's been difficult to figure out where one word starts or one word ends?
Well, mostly you have said correctly, but I would say like particles like pink part, wa, ni. That's most biggest struggles for learning from different countries, right? So for the beginners, I would say you don't have to worry about particles. See, like watashi, skip, kyo, today, Tokyo eki, skip, densha, skip, norimasu. Then, still your partner can understand what you really want to say, even though without
Mm.
particles, right? So, and then you have gradually, learn what kind of particles
Mm.
are in Japanese language, and wa means you mostly like for subject topic. Then is like mostly place, and then you can continue to complete the right Japanese sentence.
Mm.
Particle.
Mhm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, let's take a closer look at particles, because they're very interesting and they tell you a lot about the sentence. So Japanese uses particles to show relationships between words. And here we have a bunch of particles. I don't think this is an exhaustive list. To be honest, this is
Mhm.
what I know. And there's obviously more than this. I know a little bit more than this,
That's
but
enough. Yeah, good.
these ones I definitely know, right? I don't always use them correctly, but as Re-sensei said, is that sometimes you can omit them and people still understand what you mean. And I imagine that maybe in casual or natural conversation, there it's already assumed what was coming next, and so people just omit them. And so it's almost like cheating, but sometimes I will just omit the particle because I don't know what it is, and I'm hoping they'll fill it in on the other side. Um,
Mm.
so we're bringing back our previous sentence, or no, this is a different sentence actually.
Yeah,
Um,
different sense.
different sentence, and so here we have watashi wa. So watashi means I, and I don't think we talk about this, but there's actually a lot of ways to say I. I don't know why, but I just know that there are. Is there any reason as to why there are so many ways of saying I?
Actually, we in our daily conversation we skip I because you know English has always a need subject, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But our Japanese natural conversation, we omit I because everybody knows you're talking about you,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, this sentence sounds actually for me that's too formal, you, you know. So I usually say 友達と公園で犬の写真を撮ってみたいね is more natural because we don't need topic.
And
And
isn't there a nuance there where if you specifically include watashi, then you are actually calling extra attention to
Yeah.
me, right? Instead of omitting. So it's interesting with the nuance there.
Yeah, nuance is really watashi wa means I really emphasize
It's
me.
about me. This
Yeah.
is about
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
So, but that's good because then I don't have to choose a word to say I. But I think usually for those that are foreign, they probably stick with watashi, and it's probably normal for that. But I know there are different ones, which I'm sure if I could remember, I would tell them right now. But we work on to the next word. We have tomodachi to. So to is marking the word friend to be I'm with my friend. So I, the topic, I'm with my friend. The next work, koen, I think it's koen de. So
Yep.
I'm with my friend and we're at the park. So that's what it's meaning in this case. Inu no. So inu, that is a dog. So this one's a little bit special because the no particle is making a possessive marker, and it actually has a relationship with the word that's going to follow. So it's kind of like connecting. If I get my pen tool out here, wherever it is, it's connecting this word and this word. At least that's the way I think of it. And so I believe the next word is shashin o. So when we say this, it's not dogs, but it's now photos of dogs or
no, you're right. Yeah, of a
sorry,
dog, really. It's of a dog, just like you
photos
said.
of a dog, but it's not like Andrew's photo or dog's photo. It's not like it's this the
Not
photo
truly
is
possessive.
it's not
Yeah.
possessed by the dog, but in this case it's of
Yeah.
dog's photo, so it's not exactly what I say it is. And then we have want to take a photo. Now this is really interesting that in Japanese, I notice there will be very specific verbs for actions that we might not have in English. I know one is like something to do with an umbrella. So it's like there's a very specific verb about using an umbrella or something. Do either you know what I might be talking about? But okay. But anyway, this one here, that's okay. I just encountered it one time. Maybe it's not a common verb to
I'm
use.
trying to think. Yeah. I know you can lend someone in a bit.
Actually, 撮ってみたい. Okay. 撮ってみたい. 撮りたい and 撮ってみたい. There are two
It's
ways.
different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, a different thing. 撮ってみたい means this person has never taken the photo of dog. Time is doesn't matter, this person's experience before or not. So 撮ってみたい is this will be his first time.
So the verb I looked up, which means verb to use or hold an umbrella, is sasu. Sasu.
Oh, sasu. I have actually heard that before, but I don't remember it.
I don't know. I don't know if that's common. So is that a common verb that is used, like to hold an umbrella, like sasu?
Sasu?
Sasu.
Which is sasu? What is?
It is a Japanese verb that says it's a verb to hold an umbrella. And
I
this is
think
the
we have the
problem.
answer.
This is
傘を差す?
okay. Okay. Okay.
傘を差す.
Okay. See, the problem is that if you don't have a Japanese language teacher, like an in-person Japanese language teacher, and you're using LLMs and other resources, I don't know if they're giving me obscure words.
Yeah, no, that's
I have no
a huge
idea.
problem. Or you go to gshow.org and you're like, oh, what does this mean? And you type it in and you go talk to your teacher and they're like, I've never heard this word in my life. And you're like,
so,
like, oh.
so
English has same kind, same.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Okay. So I know this word, it means want to take a photo, but I have no idea. I really should have. This would have been a perfect opportunity to use furigana. I didn't, but Tim, do you know what this?
It's
What the?
totte mitai. Totte mitai.
Oh,
So toru means to take a photo in this case.
Yes.
So
oh,
toru.
okay.
So this is conjugated to like the te form, like I forget what they call it. It's not progressive. Progressive, I guess. And then with mitai adds that nuance, like Rei Sensei was saying. I've never done it. So something te miru means I'm going to try something I've never tried before. It's a extra addition.
I feel that I should have known this one would be to, because and we'll talk about this in just a moment, how there are some words that have the same sound but different kanji and mean different things. But I know to take is toru, so I'm
Yep.
not surprised that this is to. But we have totte mitai ne, and this last particle here is a very special one because it's not affecting the word beside it, it's affecting the whole sentence. And so this one here, it says seeks agreement or confirmation from the listener, and we actually have such a particle in Canadian English, and it's where you end a sentence with a.
Eh?
A. Yeah,
How
we
do you
say.
use it? How do you use it?
One put to the test to do it. That's a bit harder, but it'd be like, are you going to be coming to the store with me? A. Like you just throw an a on the end of it. Like you use it,
Yeah.
like it's used quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
English, we just say like right or yeah, or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
mm-mm.
yeah, if you want to sound Canadian, you just throw a's on the end of your sentences, just like nay. You'd go a,
Oh,
and
oh,
depending on how you inflect it, can mean different things. Just like how we again, we're not talking about Canadian speech, but just the word sorry, we have so many ways. Like we say sorry, but there's so many ways we can convey those two things. So those two things are common features in my version of English. But yeah, we
Mhm.
said that words can sound similar. So Japanese language has many homophones. These are words that are pronounced the same. And so there's reasons why this could be. So the Japanese simple phonetic structure, there was a lot of letters there, but I believe that the Japanese language compared to other languages like English have fewer sounds. And so if you're going to have fewer sounds, you're going to probably have more overlapping sounds for words.
That's right.
And then, as we saw earlier with kanji being borrowed from the Chinese character set, that we're also bringing in Chinese sounds that could be utilized. And so there we could have more overlap. And so that's my theory. I'm not sure if it's true, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to reason something here.
Mm.
But one example here is the word ko, and here's all the ones we have. So my question is
Yeah.
this actually true?
yes, it is.
No, for
Exactly.
sure. For sure. Yeah.
Mm.
I can
Yes.
read these. So yes, they are correct.
And we obviously have, we're repeating, we have other variants as well, but like the interesting thing is that you can distinguish them based on the kanji. So the kanji is going to kind of tell you, like, I know this one is tall because I think of this as a tall person, like they're a really tall person with a tall hat on. But
Hmm.
um the thing is like, how would you know in speech? Like, because you don't have kanji, no one's showing you the kanji when you're talking, so how would you know that it means, like we're talking about this is actually a lecture. Like, how would we even know in
Mm,
context?
that's a good question, Andrew-san. So, have you ever heard Japanese language is called listening language?
No, actually I
Hmm.
haven't.
You have never
But
heard?
no, but
Like
I can understand. Yeah, sorry.
when we were child, mothers or teachers always taught me, taught
Mhm.
us, you need to be a good listeners. Just stay and relax and listen at the end of the speech. Then this means we need to think over you
Hmm.
listening to others speech or talking, and then because there are so many same sounds, same pronunciations, and from the context we need to think what they are really
Right.
saying.
Mm-mm. So,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
so really, it's just you have to understand the context. So, if you're talking about If you're at school and you're doing something at school, then likely when ko is being used, it's lecture, and so you're looking around at the other things there. And I would imagine this is probably an extreme example of homophones. I can't imagine every word's like this. Right? It's not. It's just. This is an
There,
extreme example, right?
there are other ones that have
Okay.
probably as many, but this is, I mean, coal is very common. She is very common. There's definitely certain sounds that are more common, I think. What do you think? What do you think, Grace Sensei? Is this normal or?
Is
Oh,
this
is
is this a is this a common like are there words that have as many homophones as this one, or is this a more extreme case?
Um, if if it's so difficult to understand, to
Mm-hmm.
catch, if you use many co sounds in one speech, we
Mm-hmm.
we we try to use kunyomi than onyomi.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
okay, that's why we have two different ways. For example, you see koko, the
Mm-hmm.
right side, one, two, three, four lines here. This is
mm,
koko. Okay, this means what did you say?
Navigation.
Koko. No, from the bottom, the
Oh,
third one, koko. This
oh,
means oya. Yeah,
filial piety.
what?
Okay.
yeah,
I don't know
that's
what
it.
that means.
Yeah,
family respect,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
respect your
Family respect.
respect your
I see. I
elders,
see.
that kind of thing.
There's a
Mm-mm.
koko. Oya koko means koko for especially for your parents,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Oya koko. It's a phrase, but
mm,
it's difficult to catch koko. This means so we
Mm-mm.
we try to say 親を大切にします。
just use different
お
words.
礼し
Okay.
ます。Different
Mm.
ways.
Different
Okay.
words.
So
Yeah,
Okay.
I imagine over time you just end up using other words that are going to work with it
yeah.
because they're not going to have conflicts. And so, okay,
Mhm,
so that makes sense. That's really
mhm,
interesting. But
mhm.
I'm pretty sure English has homophones.
Of course. Red,
Uh,
red, red, red.
yeah, but and we seem to navigate it okay. So
It's probably much less hard for people that speak the language all day. Yeah, that's a good
mm, mm,
point.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Mhm.
Let's talk about sentence construction. So I think sentence construction is a lot more complex than what we're showing here, but I think this is the key thing to take away, which is the Japanese sentence structure is subject, object, verb, whereas English is subject, verb, object. What do we mean when we say that? So imagine we have the sentence, I want to try taking pictures of dogs at the park with my friend. Remember earlier to the sentence, it wasn't in this order. And it almost feels like it's backwards. We have watashi wa tomodachi to koen de inu no shashin o totte mitai ne. And so I highlighted here, which is the verb, want to try to take taking pictures. It's all the way at the end of the sentence, right? Where this one is over
That's
here,
right.
just as it indicates here. Or the subject, which there's subject and topic, but we'll just call it subject for now. They're here generally at the start. So we have our subject. And then our object is actually marked here. So we know exactly where our object is. And it doesn't exactly fit in the English one for our translation. So if this is a literal translation, it'd be a little bit different. But that's really interesting. So I drew some arrows there. But one thing I wanted to talk about, which we didn't talk about particles earlier, is that the power of particles is that if a word is beside a particle, you have more flexibility to move those words around
That's right.
in the sentence. Whereas in English, we don't have those, and so I think that's
Mhm.
why we have to say all the words. Like in English, we don't think about this, but we are actually saying everything. Whereas in Japanese, um, you don't need to say everything because
Mhm. That's right.
and you can change the order of things. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely correct.
Mm-mm.
For example, if I say 私は写真を撮ってみたい and then you say that's it that's complete, you know, that's the perfect sentence.
Mm-hmm.
私写真を撮ってみたい
Mm.
but you may ask me more details where or which kind of picture or
Mhm.
with who.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can ask later. So firstly, I don't have to put many informations in one sentence.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
some of these can be swapped and some of them actually can't, right? So like tomodachi to koen de, we can swap those. You could be watashi wa koen de tomodachi to, but like inu no shashin, that has to stay where it is because you're specifically saying I'm taking a picture of a dog, right? So some of these can move, some of these can't. It depends on the what the particle is, what it's tied to.
One thing I found really interesting was that you can make a whole sentence with a single verb, whereas
So true.
whereas in English, you wouldn't be able to get away with that. That'd be very unusual, right?
Eat? Eat?
But I guess, and I think those that are watching here should really appreciate the Japanese language because the language can get very efficient because
Mhm.
you have the ability to move words around. If things are already known, there are like you can just drop the words completely. And so it really it's like the refactoring. That's a programming term to reduce to shrink. But you can see it's a very efficient language. So I think that's really interesting. But I could see why Google Translate really struggles with Japanese, right? You know what I'm saying?
Too much
yeah.
omitted. Too much left out for it to make
Mhm.
any sense of it.
So, but this might be our last feature of the language that I want to cover. If there's another slide after this, I have no idea, but if we do, we'll go beyond to the next slide. But this is another layer to add. So imagine you learned all 3,000 kanji, and you can handle different words in different contexts, and you know how to use all the particles in different ways. Now you got to handle levels of speech. So in Japanese, there are different levels of speech which vary based on social relationship. We have casual, we have polite form, we have the honorific language, and then we have the humble language. And so this is the same sentence. I tried to get a sentence and tried to move it through the different levels. I don't know if I did well with this or not, but why is there different levels of speech?
Because in our culture, we have inside and outside. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And in a longer history, we need to respect others, outside people, and then older people.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you find, oh, he is outside people, like if you are business student and then your client is outside from your place,
Mm-hmm.
so you should show your respect to him. In
Mm-hmm.
case you need to use which one? The second one,
The second one, the honorific language.
honorific
Okay.
language. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then for telling inside person, like your family members, your
Mm-hmm.
friend, or your co-workers to client, you need to be humble.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think you actually made a mistake there, Andrew.
Oh, I did. Where?
On your humble language, you wouldn't use that with your friend. You would definitely use that with the client.
Which one?
Up at the top where it says humble language, you would use that with the customer.
Oh, sorry. Yes. And
Yeah.
so one of my common mistakes, but yeah, with customer, we'll just
Yep. Customer,
write
client. Yeah.
write the
Business.
best I can. But yeah,
Yeah,
there
that's
we
it.
go. That probably says customer. And
True friend means like a casual.
Casual.
Okay.
Casual.
So depending on whether it's yeah, so if they're outside your social circle, then the more likely you'll go up the chain here in conversation. Now, if I went to Japan and I was to go to a hotel or a restaurant, would I be encountering what level of speech? Would they be using humble language with me?
If you are not sure which one would be perfect for you,
Mm-hmm.
say polite form is okay.
Mm-mm.
Polite form can cover everything.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
but they'll use humble language to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for
But
them
you would
speaking to
but you
you.
wouldn't use it back to them, right?
Mm-mm.
Because that would be very odd. Or okay. And is there any other factors that take into place, like age, or because I think in the Korean language, age is a huge factor. Like, do people really want to know people's age so they can determine the what language to use, or it's basically just social circles?
Yeah, for elderly people, we usually use respect the one, right?
I see.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
why we Japanese people really you know worried about how old you are, how old am I. That's why. You know,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
we always think about, oh, she must be older than I, so I should be, very polite for her.
That makes
That's why
sense.
we are, yeah, yeah. That's it.
And so, I mean, that's all the features I wanted to cover. The language is there's more to it than just this, but this I think is a good primer. And again, I think the reason it's a good use case is that if Google Translate can't do it, then you can imagine that the tools that we're using, the LLMs, the things that you can type to, they do an okay job, but they're again not perfect. And I think we're more likely to run into issues, which is what we want in the bootcamp. We want to have a challenge. And so, for those that are watching, if you can try to stick with the Japanese language, please do so. If you have any interest in learning the Japanese language and you're looking for a Japanese language teacher, Sensei, are you open to teach? Any friends of
Thank
ours?
you.
Of
Thank you.
course.
I'm
Mhm.
still in there.
But I would just say that I like the whole purpose of language learning is the end goal is to actually talk to people for real, and I think it's
Mm,
really important that folks invest their time talking to real people, because if you're talking to AI, or you're trying to learn by reference, then that might not translate over. Or
mm,
if you want to get to your goal faster, I still think that in-person learning is very effective. Now, I do use AI in between lessons, and it does help to some degrees, but I'm often bringing the stuff to Resensei, and the
mm.
things that look like it's like, oh, you chose to use very difficult words here, or words that do not fit. And it becomes
Yeah,
very clear that AI is very far
it's
away
not
from,
ready.
it's
Yeah,
not ready
yeah.
to act like a real human. But yeah, I
Mm.
appreciate your folks' help getting us through this primer. And for those that are watching, I hope you are not just excited about learning GenAI, but more about the Japanese language. And so we'll just say goodbye to our guests, and we'll just clear the stage here, and we will see everybody here in the next video. Okay, ciao ciao.